Her story's turning into gold. She's taking her power back. Yeah, she's on the rise. Strength in her soul, fire in her eyes. Keeping God first, watch her dreams unfold. Her life's a diamond, breaking the mold. Oh, she's taking her power back. Yeah, she's taking her power back. Harmony.
Welcome back to another episode of Simple Notes from Rita. I am your host, RTaylor, and as promised on my last episode, that our therapist for today, Margo Farris, is back with us for part 2 of mental health and the journey to get there. I'm so excited that you are with us for another episode because I knew just one 20-minute episode was not going to be enough. This is actually really good. It's rich. And I know it's a lot of information that people probably, like myself for a while, did not really understand what mental health was, the negative attitudes around it, and the reluctance to come to therapy, whether it's in your family, career-wise. Sometimes people don't feel like they in need of therapy. And even in ministry, we find that it's hard for people to accept that they actually need therapy. So going into this episode, we were talking about, from the last episode, we were talking about relationships and how trauma and from childhood into adulthood, how it actually affects relationships. And actually, it starts in childhood. Sometimes kids have issues making relationships or friendships, connecting because of what actually happened in the home. And connecting the dots and putting all these things together, it's amazing to me how it is always a root cause to everything, and you don't realize it. Just like this rug here, you don't realize it until you pull the rug back
Absolutely.
to see what's actually on there. So can you talk a little bit more about how trauma that has not been addressed can affect relationships, whether it's corporate, in romantic relationships, whether it's ministry, whatever, it just affects relationships altogether.
When you think about what I mentioned at the start about the social well-being, that's where we sort of see a lot of these things come in, right? How do we exist with individuals within our community, whether it's our school community, work community, our village, right? And so oftentimes what you see is people have an inability to not relate to others, right? Based off of things that may have happened. That lack of trust and inability to communicate effectively. You see it often. I'm pretty sure, when you think about the workplace, we see it a lot, where we're dealing with individuals, who have, these preconceived notions about who we are, and oftentimes we have a difficult time interacting with our coworkers, for whatever reason. We sort of keep our heads down and we ensure that we're doing our work, while we're dealing with microaggressions and a lot of things we see microaggressions in the workplace, right? We see that often. And if you were someone who had some issues, growing up, or things that happened in your past, you may learn to people please. And so even when you're in a space where, you're right about something, or you need to sort of stand your ground in something that's happening, let's say with a colleague, you sort of
lose your voice in a way. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think another thing that we see oftentimes, especially as it relates to work, is that imposter syndrome, right? So you've dealt with these things, as a child, or, some things have happened as an adult, whether it be in a workplace or in a relationship, and you are just very, very persistent about the fact that whatever said accomplishment has happened, it has nothing to do with you. Because of that low self-worth, right? Or, it's almost like you're getting in your own way. Like, I couldn't possibly be able to, leave my corporate job and go back to doing something that I love, right? Which is, writing books or, writing stage plays, because my gosh, if I step out, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? It sort of goes along with something that I mentioned earlier with that self-sabotage, right? You are just constantly in your head about how all of these great things that are happening to you couldn't possibly be happening because of all the work that you're putting in, right? This is definitely happening because no, it's just fate. It's meant to be, you know, and it's almost you not giving yourself those flowers. You're able to give others those flowers, but you're not able to give them to yourself and recognize, you know what, I am working very hard.
Yeah.
You know, I am not only going to take this step out on faith, but I'm going to make sure that I'm putting things in place to ensure that once I take this step,
Yeah.
you know, I'll be good in
Putting
doing
legs
that.
with your faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, faith without works is just totally dead.
Mhm.
So, and I like that you mentioned that basically give yourself credit
Yes.
for it's okay, and it's not taking away from God blessing you, from you walking out on faith, and you doing the work to get what you're getting now, or reaping the benefits of your work. So in the workplace, let's say in corporate America, workplace, whether it's education, wherever, whatever industry you're in, you're in a board meeting and someone mentions something, and you basically, you have the answer, and they know you have the answer. So you kind of retreat. You kind of just mute. You go on mute. Does that have to do with imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. You're 1000% in your head. You know, you're not recognizing that, you know, I have the answer, but what if I say this answer and it's wrong? Well, what if it's right? You know, it's really, truly you know, getting in your own way from being able to be successful or see the fruits of your labor, because, you know, you have these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts that are running through your head, making you believe that you're not capable of accomplishing something, or, you know, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, so I'll just let them handle it. You know, but you see it, you know, oftentimes in a classroom, you know, or with kids, they'll have the right answer, but they don't have that gusto in them, you know, to say, oh, well, it's this, you know, and it makes you wonder, when did that, you know, when did, yeah.
Because I was going to ask you that then, could that go back to childhood as well?
It's possible. Absolutely. Yes.
Is it possible to pick it up? You could have come up in a nurturing home that pushed you and promoted you and always told you you're wonderful, you're good. I really believe that's why I'm a firm believer in affirmations, positive affirmations, speaking them over children and even over yourself, even until you believe it. But could that happen to pick up later in life?
Yes. Yes, it can happen based off of experiences. Again, whether it's at work, it could be at school, you can be in a relationship with someone, you know, who isn't doing right by you, right? And they're sort of conditioning you to believe some of the things that they're saying, or the way that they're behaving and showing up in said relationship can sort of lead you to believe, oh man, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, you know, or I've done something wrong, or let me not say this, or let me not do this because that will upset my partner. And oftentimes you sort of see, you know, them sort of falling back, right? And no longer being themselves, but a shell of themselves now. So it doesn't always happen in childhood. There can definitely be experiences that happen with you as an adult that will shape you, right? It could be something that was so impactful for you that this has now shaped me, and, you know, I'm going to move like this moving forward. You know, so it's not always childhood, but it's definitely an experience at some point, right? That can sort of put you in a place where this is how you may think or view yourself when others may see you in a different way.
And wow, this is like a therapy session. Hey, y'all, we in therapy.
We're in therapy.
That's good. And I wanted to ask that question because, you know, some kids come up and they have confidence that's just exuding out of them. But then later on in life, something happens and you can tell the shift. So that's why I asked that question. Could it be something that happens on in life? So when you hear people say that I'm finding my voice, and I wanted to explain this because I think sometimes when people hear I'm finding my voice, they think it's, well, I can hear you, you're speaking the vocals or whatever, but that's not necessarily what finding your voice is. There's a book that was written in one of the chapters. There's a young lady by the name of Vanessa. She actually, she's a reporter and she's doing well. She looks just fabulous on the outside. People think she has it all together, but really on the inside, she's fighting. She has internal battles that she's fighting, but she's lost her voice. Now, she's a news reporter. Every day she's speaking. She has a voice, but not really. So there's one particular conference she went and she spoke at, and at that conference, that was the day she felt as if she had regained her voice. She felt like she was in a place where she could actually be heard, where she could breathe. So when you speak about finding, or when I speak about finding your voice, it's not necessarily your vocal cords or that you're hoarse. What does it actually mean, finding your voice?
Being able to speak up for yourself, or be able to speak to the truth or facts or whatever that said situation is. And so oftentimes, again, it goes back to, you could be in a relationship or something could have happened where, you were sort of muffled or silenced. And, you sort of start to believe maybe I shouldn't, be so vocal, or maybe I should take a step back. Or you may see a colleague or friends, getting accolades in certain areas. And, you may start to think, well, man, I'll never be able to be in that space or live up to that. And you do sort of, retreat into yourself. One of the things that I do when I work with certain individuals, especially if they're dealing with workplace issues or relational issues, is, learning how to teach people how you want to be treated. That is a way of finding your voice, right? And so you're dealing with individuals who may be used to, speaking in an aggressive way, or, talking in so many circles that, you're so tired and exhausted from the circles, you just give in. And, really being able to recognize, what, I don't want to be treated this way, or I'm not interested in engaging in a relationship with someone in this way. And so I am going to, find my voice. I'm going to speak up about this. You said this and I don't really like it. It doesn't have to be an argument, and I think that sometimes that's something that sort of sits in the back of individuals' minds, like when they're sort of going through a transition or dealing with some relational issue with a partner or friend, right? Well, I don't want it to be an argument. It doesn't have to be an argument. That's not what it needs to look like. You can assert yourself and say what you're feeling without it being a conflict. Like you're more than able to speak and say how you feel. Now, how the other person takes it, they're entitled to feel the way that they feel about it as well. But you have a right to say what's on your mind, obviously, as long as you're not being hurtful or harmful, to someone. But it's okay for you to assert yourself, find your voice, speak your mind, say what it is that you need to say without the fear of conflict. That is what communication looks like. I should be able to say, you know what, Rita, you mentioned this earlier, and it hurt my feelings, or I really didn't like that, or I may not agree with that. We can always agree to disagree, but it doesn't always have to be, I'm fearful now that this person is going to be upset with me, because then you need to sort of ask yourself a question, right? Is this something that I want to be a part of if I have a fear of expressing myself, So
and not feeling comfortable around someone. I know I learned to, I think even more recently, to not even place myself in spaces where I don't feel like I can be myself. Because for so long, I always, to a certain degree, have been me and was comfortable with being me. But there were certain levels to where I have not been truly who Rita is, even in just speaking up or being the outgoing, fun person. I come from that type of family. And in certain settings, I feel like I have to put up I can't let that part of me show. But as of lately, I've been able to really, I'm like done with that. It's time to be all of who I am, because that's where I feel more comfortable, and that's where I feel more fulfilled. And you mentioned something about expressing, being able to express themselves. So I want to go back to what we talked about in the last episode about the children and some things that we learn in the home, we told. You know where I'm going. Don't you ask for nothing when you come into that store. When you go in that store, I don't want you to ask for anything. So children should be able to express. And we were talking about during the break, being able to express themselves does not necessarily mean that they're going to get the answer that they want.
1000%, but they should definitely not be fearful to ask. As parents or caregivers, we have one job, y'all. One job, right? And that one job is to make sure that we are, raising children that feel supported and safe, right? So you only got one shot at it, and so you just want to make sure that you don't mess that up. And so, you may not always recognize it, right? But why can't they ask for the ball? You don't have to say yes, right? It could be a no, right? It could be a not right now, not today, let me think about it. Let's go home and talk about it with, your dad or, your mom or whomever. That can be your response, but to take the gift of asking away from a child is like, whoo,
Yeah.
being able to ask questions is a gift.
That's
I
good.
really truly believe that. And so, again, I don't think that it's ever intentional or with any ill intent,
Right.
but, those things stay with us. When look, you even said it, I grew up in a house like that where,
Yeah.
I did as well, where
A lot of
it is a
us.
core memory for me that I would get a speech before going into a
Yeah.
place about how I can't have anything, I better not touch anything, don't look at anything. And it's like, man, so I'm just going to be a statue. I'm just going to stand here, and not be able to soak in my environment. And I'm not saying let the kids run around and tear
Right.
everything
Yeah.
down. That's not what
No.
I'm saying either. But I do think that it's okay for questions to be asked. And I just think that sometimes we get so caught up in our issues, right, as adults, whether we're dealing with financial issues, right?
Right.
And I know I can't afford anything else but, the eggs and milk and bread that I'm going in here to get. And that's okay if that's all you can
Yeah.
afford. But try not to project what you're dealing with as an adult onto those babies. They can ask. It doesn't have to be a yes, right?
Right.
But they should be able to ask.
And
They
I
should be able to
wanted
ask.
to circle back to that because especially what you were talking about being in meetings or whatever and being able to express yourselves. I think it started with childhood, not being able to some of it. And like you said, it's no ill intent because I know sometimes we were told, look, we're going to the store, don't ask. And sometimes we still ask.
Well, we would.
Yeah, we
but
still ask. Didn't I
sometimes-
say no? Didn't I tell you not to ask?
Yes. We do see that, right? But sometimes we see that fear too, right? And so, that they take that on and, it sort of becomes a part of them. Like, I'm not going to ask for anything. We also do that, when we send our children to their friends' home. Don't you go over there acting hungry.
And they be hungry. Now that
they want
bothers
something to
me.
eat.
Yes, that bothers me. Let these babies ask. I hear their
Yes.
tummies growling.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm like, no, because
Yes.
I'm big on making sure kids are fed.
Yeah.
These babies or whatever. So this has been really a very good session. I appreciate you stopping by and being with us.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
one of the things at the end of each episode we do, and I did not do it at the last episode because this was going to be a continuation,
Okay.
is we drop a nugget, a simple note from Rita. So a simple note from Rita is basically something profound from the episode that you just want to really leave with the people to resonate, for them to think on. And what would that simple note from Margo be today for our audience?
I think that it's very, very important for you to understand that you are deserving of peace and happiness. And if you are in a space where, you're not feeling that and you're dealing with signs of depression or anxiety, or, you have some unresolved trauma that you haven't dealt with, seek out some help. And just make sure that whoever it is that you are seeking that help from, you feel comfortable enough to go through that journey with them, because it is a journey and you want to ensure that the person or individuals that you're working with, have your best interest at heart and that you're comfortable with them, because the only way that you'll get what you're needing out of the process is if you are able to trust whoever it is that you're working with. So if you do, sort of have those intrusive thoughts and feel like you're not deserving of all things that result in peace and happiness, I'm here to say that you are.
Yes.
And please, please, please just seek some help, whether it's from, a community agency, someone that works within a private setting. Just tell someone, I need some help and I'm not sure how to navigate this. So if you can, just help me.
Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
good. And they can always, if who they find is not working for them, they can always seek out someone else.
Oh, yes. Don't feel like you have to stay in a situation that makes you uncomfortable or that isn't serving you.
Okay. Where, if people wanted to maybe see you for a therapist, are they able to do that? And how would they connect?
Yes, I am currently on Psychology Today under Capstone Connect. The practice that I work with is Capstone Connect PLCC. I'm located in the front of Kingwood, so if you're familiar with that side of town, I see individuals both in person and virtually. And so they can find me on Psychology Today or on capstoneconnect.net. And if not me, we work with a lot of great clinicians, and so you'll be in good hands, I'll say that.
Thank you. Capstone Connect. And what is it? Psychology Today?
Yes, I am on Psychology Today. So if you type in Capstone Connect on Psychology Today, you'll see lots of clinicians or therapists who will pop up. So come find me, Margo Farris.
Thank you so much once
Thank
again
you.
for being here. I really appreciate it. This has been really good. If you need a therapist, seek out Margo Farris through Capstone Connect or Psychology Today. Once again, this has been 20 minutes of Simple Notes from Rita. We hope and pray that you have enjoyed this show. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification button so you are notified every time we drop an episode. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Her story's turning into gold. She's taking up power back. Yeah, she's on the rise.